The robots of Westworld have gone off the leash. They can do what they want. They can be who they want. While the ones of Shogun World are just as bad, if not worse. So what do they become?
Welcome to the heart of the stories we tell. My name is Rob, and tonight I will be reviewing
Episode 5 of Season 2, Westworld, Akane no Maya, which basically means the dance of the arcana, something along those lines. Either way, the episode takes place mostly not in Westworld, but in Shogun World. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean that there weren't important things that changed in Westworld itself, or that there's any less messed up stuff going on this week. Last week we learned all about how Bill came to power, and what happened to Logan, and who the leader of Delos was, and this week we leave most of that storyline behind and deal with primarily the Shogun World, but also a bit of Dolores. And we have a question, one that I find interesting because, as I've said before, I want to be a writer. What is plagiarism, and what is research, and how much duplicating is okay? But okay, for those of you that don't know, what I do here is I review stories. I review comic books, TV shows, movies, books, you name it. And then I come up with theories on how and why we tell stories. And Westworld is just full of all sorts of thought processes that a writer like me really is interested in. So if you're interested in these sorts of thoughts too, click on that subscribe button and join our little community. But for right now, we're going to take a walk through the park of Westworld. Well, parks of Delos Property Worlds? So sit back, strap in, and of course, beware of spoilers.
So once again, it's stop spoiler time.
So the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that Shogun World is basically the same as Westworld. They've duplicated characters with just new bodies and looks. And there's actually a little bit of funniness there because samurai stories and cowboy stories actually have a big history of being rewritten as each other. And it brings up the question, how much of that is plagiarism and how much of that is, well, the basics work. And once the basics work, you're just dropping them in a different setting. And once you make a few minor tweaks, isn't it your own character? Isn't everything really based on those same basic stories that we've been telling each other over and over again? I mean, hell, how many variants off Superman are there? Is Superman even an original idea at this point? I mean, the powerful hero who's going to save the day? That's like a dime a dozen. In fact, I did a countdown of my top 7 favorite Superman ripoffs, and most of them were even from DC itself, or some variant of DC. So, okay, maybe it's a little hard to say it's plagiarism. But, like Martin joked, when you have enough, maybe it's research. So we see characters that are the same base storyline, the same base concept, just taken in a different twist. And one of the things the writer says is, Shogun World is for people who were getting bored with Westworld, a darker take. Now, the fact that you have to learn another language kind of amazed me, for a couple of reasons. I assume that the going clientele weren't likely to learn a new language just to do this sort of thing, and it would have been so easy to just have everyone speak a common language. So I'm going to give both the park and the show props for making me read subtitles, and I'm not a big fan of subtitles to begin with. But okay, so Shogun World wasn't just off the tracks because of the fact that they're now free, but at the same time, the Shogun himself was malfunctioning, in a similar way that we saw Bernard malfunctioning last week. Now, that in and of itself isn't much of a clue, because we've seen other people malfunction like this, other hosts malfunction like this. But I think that there is something to tie this together as well. And it still boggles my mind. Where in time is Bernard? Are there 2 Bernards? What the heck is going on with Bernard? And how often are we seeing Bernard as opposed to seeing Arnold? And I wonder how much of Arnold is actually in Bernard, especially now that we know the concept of immortality through these things has come up. But again, that was last week's episode. This week, when we're not in Shogun World watching what is basically yet another sex workers' rights story, which is basically another we as people are pretty crappy to other people story, we're back in the regular park. and we're with our two lovebirds. And it's kind of a messed up story. Now, if you remember, Dolores is currently on a hunt for her father. And although she keeps saying that it's because he's her father, I think she knows what he's carrying, and that's the important part. Meanwhile, her good old boyfriend here, Teddy, is acting more and more free. And he's just too damn good of a guy, too nice of a guy, programmed to be a hero, to let her go about all the despotic things she has to do. And I find that interesting, because she was kind of responsible for the twist in Bill, too, William. So I wonder how much of what we're going to see next week with Teddy is going to also be similar to what we saw the difference between the Man in Black and William as a kid. And anyone who didn't know that the story with the cows was going to end with, by the way, we had to kill them all, was fooling themselves, including Teddy himself, I'm afraid. But alright, let's go back for a minute, because Maeve here is developing what she calls a new voice, and what I'm going to call telepathy. And it's pretty badass on its own, but I want you to think about something that we learned earlier this season. The hosts are capable of some sort of communication between each other. Small updates, they can look for each other, they can send information back and forth. So, if they can do that, what's to stop someone from, say, uploading a virus that could affect one into the next? Or, say, activate someone's thought process, or issue commands without words. You know, telepathy. And the idea that Maeve is going to become sort of a technomancer telepath capable of changing other hosts' thoughts is pretty damn scary if you think about it. In fact, I'd take it one more and say the whole idea of this only makes sense because of the fact that they're machines. But then again, going back to the whole, is it stealing from yourself? Is stealing a plot idea from yourself work? Well, any sufficiently advanced technology seems like magic. So, telepathy seems like a form of psychic magic. But it's really just the computers communicating in the background. And I'm going to bring this all around again with something Martin once said. No, not the thing about the difference between stealing and research. Plagiarism and research. No, he once said that the same stories can be told because different genres, in this case, Westworld and Shogun World being cowboys and Indian genre compared to samurai genre, just have different basic furniture. The stories themselves are really the same. And that's kind of funny, because we're trying to get to the heart of the stories we tell here. And the heart of this story showcases that the same story told in different ways could be the same one. I wonder what the little girl that knows too much would say about that. I wonder what Robert, not me, Robert, because I'm Rob too, but Robert, the creator of Westworld, would say about storylines being duplicated across genre. And I wonder what the original writers of Westworld would think about an adaptation, about a rewriting of their story, and how it also ends up being metally their own story as well. Let me know down in the comment section below what you think. Do you think that the telepathy is going to be important? Do you think that there's a line we can connect between the change in William and the change that's going to see in Teddy? And most importantly, let me know what you thought of the episode. And before you do that even, click that thumbs up, share this video, and if you haven't already, click the subscribe button, because I'm going to insanely ramble about every episode this season, and I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. And then I'll respond to them on my next video. For now, I hope you have a good night, I hope that you're enjoying Westworld as much as I am, and I hope you get some time to think about what the difference is between stealing intellectual property and using it as an inspiration. Have a good night, and thanks for watching.